So tell me more about my situation and evil men who are coming for my nation, and evil forces who are coming for my freedom. In secret Congress, nobody ever see them for propaganda. Now it's everywhere I look, it's a propaganda. It's just like history books, propaganda. Everywhere I go, hey mister, well, tell me what you know. Hey mister, come on, tell me what you know. If somebody wants to make a confrontation, well, they won't get no play on your radio station. And they won't get no time on the television. Words been sent down from the owner corporation for propaganda. Now it's everywhere I go, it's a propaganda. It's all my TV shows, propaganda. Everywhere I go, hey mister, come on, tell me what you know. Hey mister.
All right. Well, welcome to the show here. Trying to work on the levels here. This show it's a new show, so this is going to be the first time that I do this show. I'm going to call it Propaganda Radio. It's a, I don't know, working title, I guess you could say. But basically what I want to do is talk about and discuss some of the things that are going on in Spokane right now, things that I'm currently been active in, and kind of inform people what's going on and what we're doing and what we want and why we want it, what kind of change we want to see and what we want to make possible. And in the process, I'm hoping that people might be able to learn in other towns, other cities, learn from what we're doing, and hopefully learn from other people, because it's all interconnected. You know, it's all working class issues, it's working class struggles, and it's something that we're all a part of. And you're not going to be now that there's no music, I have to adjust my mental state. But so basically there's two things that I want to talk about today, and that's the police busting up of Camp Hope. And I'm less informed on that topic, and so I'll just touch on that briefly later on. And the other thing that I want to talk about is the tenants' rights that we're trying to get enacted, that we're trying to push city council to enact, and how we're going about that process. But before I do any of that, I think I should introduce people to how I got to the situation that I'm in right now, how I got involved, and what happened to change me from just being a bookworm, stay-at-home, armchair leftist to becoming active in the community and, you know, trying to show my support and show up places and be involved every way possible in tenants' issues. I see it interwoven with all the other issues, things that I've dealt with, things that people I'm close to have dealt with, and it's all interwoven, and it's all class struggle. And basically it's, when you look at addiction, when you look at crime, when you look at prison, when you look at poverty, when you look at mental illness, it all seems to be connected to housing and financial stability, which is something that most of us don't, well, maybe not most of us, a lot of us don't have. And as far as financial security, I don't think it's reasonable for at least half of the population to feel that they are secure financially. Most of us are one paycheck away, one emergency room visit, one layoff away from total devastation. And so economic insecurity seems to be the driving force in a lot of crime, addiction, abuse, domestic violence. All of it seems to be interconnected. And so attacking the housing issue, I see as vitally important and issue number one for me at the time. So, almost exactly a year ago now, my landlord, who we were very fond of, about 6 years ago, me and my ex-fiance moved into this place. It was a much bigger place than the place that we had been in. And we were moving away we had a next door neighbor that was on methamphetamines, and he was loud, and there was weird people coming over, and it was kind of sketchy. And my fiance at the time was really frightened by the whole thing. Not like frightened, like scared for her life, but just really uncomfortable. And we also had a group of homeless people that would sit right outside in the alley and drink beer. And that put us in a situation to where I went and I bought them all beer so they would go away. And they were gone for like 2 weeks. And I just told them, hey, we have a kid that comes and stays with us, and I just need you guys to go somewhere else because it's uncomfortable for her, it's uncomfortable for my ex-fiance, and we just want this situation remedied. And they said it was fine, they left, and then they came back a couple weeks later and they were drinking again, and it put us in a situation to where, I don't want to call the cops on anybody, so I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to go out there and threaten them. Anything I do could be retaliated against. And so we were uncomfortable with where we were living. It was a small place. And we just wanted some kind of a little bit of privacy. And we were walking one day and we found this place. And I was like, it looks like that apartment's empty. And then this guy comes up from the top and he says, you guys looking for an apartment? I said, actually, yeah, we are. And we met him, and I remember him talking, and he had this kind of whatever attitude about everything. And it was really comforting. And the place was big. It was fairly nice. It was close to 1,000 square feet. It's listed as 1,100 square feet, but I don't think that it is. But so we talked to him for a while, and I remember something he was saying, his attitude about everything. I was like, it just reminded me of some of the Charles Bukowski books. And so I looked at him and I said, oh, you got a little Bukowski in you, huh? And he goes, I got a lot of Bukowski in me. And I started laughing, and I was like, okay, this place will work out. And we told him, we got to give notice to our landlord. He's like, are you in a month-to-month, or are you in a year lease? And I was like, no, we're month-to-month. And he goes, well, you don't have to give him notice. He wouldn't give you a notice. And so 2 weeks later, we managed to scrounge up the money to get a deposit and everything. I had to borrow from my dad, I think. And we moved into the place. And we ended up really loving it there. We loved our neighbors. We got along with everybody. We communicated with people. We had a corner ground level, and it felt private. So that was brand new to us. And we were really happy to live there. And eventually the relationship ended. This 4 years later, the relationship ended, and my fiance at the time moved out. And a couple months later, I'm sitting there. I think I was, writing some music or something, and I'm probably talking shit on Facebook or something like that. And I hear pop, pop, pop. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I knew that the building next to us their roof was being worked on. So I figured I would go check it out and look out the window, and I didn't see anything. And then I heard pop, pop, pop. again. And I thought, oh shit. And as I'm sitting there, right by my window, I thought it was a young kid. I thought it was like a 15-year-old boy that was like kind of tall, goes running down the hill. And I thought, oh, maybe somebody fired shots at that kid and scared him away. And I sat down and I didn't think much of it. And next thing I know, I hear police outside talking, and I think they're talking to the manager, Mike, the person that we met when we first moved in there. And I thought I heard his voice, and I thought, okay, and I went and I could tell he was talking to police, and I texted him, and I said, hey, is everyone okay? And I didn't hear back from him, which was strange, but for some reason, I know why, because I thought I had heard his voice. And so, thinking that I'd already heard him, I didn't think much of him not returning my text. I figured, oh, maybe he's just worried or something. And a couple hours go by, and sorry about that computer noise. A couple hours go by, and all of a sudden they're taping off the building, and it seems like hundreds of police outside. And I have no idea what's going on. And I stay inside, and I'm worried. I'm freaking out. And text Mike again. Don't hear anything back. And then the police come and talk to me. They don't tell me anything. And so I get on to the local news, and I start talking to them because I'm trying to figure out if they know something more than me. And they said, hey, can you come talk to us? So I went out there to talk to them, so maybe I could find out if they knew something that I didn't know. And I talked to them, give them an interview, and I'm like, what's going on? And I don't remember what information they gave me. They did know a tiny bit more than I did. Basically, that 2 people had been shot, and one of them was a woman. And I couldn't think of who it was because Dee, our landlord, I thought she was gone because she was supposed to leave like the day before. And she only lived there like maybe 3 months out of the year total, maybe 4. And I didn't think it was Mike because I had already heard him talking to the police, so I didn't know who was shot. And I'm thinking about Susan, who was probably the neighbor that I was closest to. Walt, right next to me, was in the hospital because he was ill, and I couldn't think of who it was, and I hadn't talked to Susan. I hadn't heard from Susan, and I didn't remember that I had her number in my phone. I thought we had written it down somewhere, and I forgot to put it into my phone, and I didn't look. I don't know. It was all, I was really scattered and really concerned. And I was talking to Rick, my neighbor upstairs, and he had moved into the place. I think he had been there 10 years. I'd been there for 5. And he moved in because of Mike, and they were friends. They went to school together. And the next morning I go out and I talk to him, and I'm like, have you heard anything? And he goes, it was Mike. And I felt this just tightening in my chest. And he said, yeah, Mike was shot. And I got choked up. He was somebody I talked to 2-3 times a week. When he would collect rent, we'd end up talking for like 2 hours. I think it annoyed my ex-fiance sometimes. She never showed it. She was always fine. But